This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 4th of September 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am GK, and in case you missed the winning headlines, here they are. In the Standard, witness, DCI forced me to accuse RUTO. In the Star, why Mariga could be out of Kibera race. And in the Daily Nation, tough queries, Sonko faces over city tenders. Where do we begin?
I say we start with the Standard.
The Standard?
Yes.
Okay.
The assassination story has come back to bite us.
Yes, the drama continues.
The drama continues. I think there is a man called Gateri who was arrested in Embu a day after the investigation of the fake assassination letter.
Yes.
It's not me who said it. It just happened. People said it was fake. But then this Gateri man, he says that he was coerced by DCI to say that he spoke to the deputy president and the idea of the letter was engineered by him.
Yeah.
And what this is actually telling us is DCI are doing what ICC used to do to suspects.
Harass them?
Coerce them.
Coerce them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because DCI has actually made a statement, haven't they?
Yes, they came out to say that Gateri is in fact he's being investigated on his own volition. Isn't just a witness to Itumbi's case.
Yes.
I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of
but the interesting thing is that they didn't say that they didn't coerce him, right?
Yes, they didn't deny the coercing.
Yeah, which I think is interesting.
And threatening with execution.
Yeah.
So,
but what DCI is saying is this man was never a witness. He was a suspect.
Yes, in his own right.
Yes, but Gateri is saying he is going to court to file a petition so that he withdraws his status as a witness.
Okay.
Which is what makes this headline very interesting. Because one, we've said multiple times, we know who owns the Standard, right? So it's interesting that this headline kind of makes us feel oye for RUTO, right?
Yes.
But then at the same time, it tags Gateri as a witness, not as a suspect.
Absolutely.
So this headline is quite interesting.
Absolutely.
We said anyway, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headline. We ask ourselves if it's speculative or topical. Is it repetitive or groundbreaking? And finally, is the headline thoughtful or just plain lazy? I feel like this is a bit speculative.
Completely.
It is.
I think that, we need to call on the Standard to read a little bit more into what's actually going on.
No, but I mean, if I was the editor of the Standard, I would do the same thing.
I guess. But
Yes.
So in the Star, why Mariga could be out of the Kibera race.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, my people here, I think there are too many moving parts in this story. First I read and I said, probably it is speculative, right? Because if Mariga could be out of the race, the person to advise Jubilee that is out of the race is IEBC.
Okay.
But then when I read it again, I came up with two theories. The first theory is this. Uhuru and Ruto are probably playing Raila.
Hold on, Tuam. I just want to stop you 1 minute because I feel like we've forgotten the context of this story before you get into your deep analysis, right? Because the story here is that Mariga might not even be able to run because he just registered himself as a voter.
Yes.
And the claim is that because the voter list has not been gazetted, he is not eligible to run.
However, it just says that you should just be a registered voter.
Exactly.
Yes.
Finished.
Yes.
So here someone is trying to
stir the pot.
Someone is stirring the pot. And it's out of this actually that I actually think there are two theories here. Either Raila and Ruto, Uhuru and Ruto have come together and said, let's play this guy proper. Let's field a candidate because I think ethnic numbers point to the Luyas having a majority in Kibera. Maybe Mariga has a chance of winning. But second of it is this. If at all IEBC today, there's something they've said today, that the letter they received of the list of candidates from Jubilee
was fake.
Yes. If that is the case, and IEBC has said that, then it is possible Ruto was being set up. That Mariga is a candidate, and then it just so appears the man does not even qualify being a candidate based on a technicality.
But however, this also points to Jubilee's confusion and chaos.
Absolutely.
Internally.
Conflicting messaging from Ruto, from Tuju.
From the elections board.
So I think at this point we call out the Star for making a very speculative headline. And their headline itself has decided what is happening. They're not even suggesting suggesting, they are saying.
But maybe they are right. Mariga could actually be out of the Kibera.
I think it's way too early to tell. The speculation needs to leave.
In the Daily Nation, tough queries as Sonko faces over city tenders.
Yes.
I think here the Daily Nation is shedding the spotlight on Sonko. However, other governors have been under the same kind of inquiry.
Yeah, exactly. So he was called into Integrity Center to answer questions about a multi-million garbage collection and disposal tender that was awarded to 13 people. Yeah. And they say that it's questionable because of the amounts, but also the people who were given the tenders are apparently not competent to do those jobs.
EFCC is investigating, and I keep telling you, they are just telling us the postman is doing their job. What is a big deal? They can investigate why the rains did not come.
That is very true. Wait, do we not have a winning headline?
So we don't have a winning headline.
I think it's a slow news day. It is.
And you can see they all took different angles to the news.
Yeah.
On to our next segment, where we analyze the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Yeah. We ask ourselves, are these cartoons humorous, or are they dry? Are they satirical, or are they pessimistic? And finally, are they effective or just plain lazy? So we start with the Nation.
Yes. What do we have today from Ozone? Oh, not Ozone, Dula.
Caricature of the Sultan himself, Governor of Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho. And he's playing a violin. And he's playing a violin next to an SGR train. And the captains, the pilots of that train, is none other than Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And it's musical notes. He's reading and he's wearing a bow tie.
Yeah.
And he has a red tie.
It's a red bow tie, which is the Jubilee. Yeah. And he's singing to the tunes of Tarab, which is the Mombasa tunes.
And I think this is alluding to the fact that Joho has become an unintended beneficiary of the handshake.
Absolutely.
So the story goes that he may have gotten some assignment of land at the dry port.
Yes.
So the people of Mombasa are feeling slighted because he was opposing the dry port, and now is suddenly there's a change of tune and he's for the dry port.
Because he's a beneficiary, allegedly.
And I want to say, great job, Joho.
Yeah.
Politics is about interests. Yeah. If you continued saying dry port is bad, we would be going hungry.
Oh my goodness.
Well, to the people of Mombasa.
Well, there's nothing in the Standard today, is there? There's only the editorial cartoon.
Break, so
I think we instantly tossed that.
So let's do today's star cartoon.
Yes. Yes. Caricature of the footballer himself, McDonald Mariga.
Yeah.
And he's being coached by none other than Deputy President William Ruto. Now he's in his Kenya hat and he's not crying. And next to him is a coach that is wearing orange for the first time again in a long time, and that's Raila Odinga. And the caption there is game changer. And I think Ozone is right. Yeah. We might just see a situation where Baba is eclipsed in Kibera.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Mariga has all the ingredients of, winning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's a celebrity. He's into betting. Into football.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's from the right tribe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They were saying earlier, we're calling it a genius selection to choose him as a candidate.
Yes. Absolutely genius selection.
And this is where you see DP's political...
Absolutely.
prowess.
Guys, I would like to take full responsibility for the turn in Ozone's cartoons. I feel like from this table I have mentored him, and I think that he's changing his tune. He's getting really good,
and he's doing so well that we actually brought back his star cartoon from yesterday.
I should get the winning cartoon, shouldn't I?
And yesterday he took us to the Mao Forest. You want to describe it?
Caricature of three guys. First, Governor Sam. We can tell because of the teeth. The other one is Oscar Sudi, and the other one is Deputy President William Ruto. And they're standing on a stump of a tree that's been cut. And I think depicting the state of deforestation in the Mau. And they're addressing settlers who are about to be evicted at the Mau.
In fact, they've packed their bags.
Yes, and they're addressing them using a megaphone. And because of the 2012 political rhetoric that was there when Mau evictions were happening, the Kalenjin MPs, Rift Valley MPs were very much against the Mau evictions. And he's saying, here we go again.
And I think Kalenjin leaders are, between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely.
Because
that's very true.
You have the Mau and the complex itself and the green economy it stands for, but then you also have a constituent that you must pandering
Protect,
to
yeah.
it and protect.
That's very
Absolutely,
true.
absolutely.
All right.
But good cartoon also.
It is a good cartoon.
So
However,
what is
I do prefer today's. So I would suggest that we toss
Yeah.
yesterday's.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
toss the nation.
and we're tossing the
No,
nation.
are you tossing Joho?
Yeah.
Why are you tossing Joho?
Okay. So I will tie break here. I will say we give Joho. We give it to Ndula.
All right.
Yes,
So
fantastic.
Ndula has our winning country too.
Very
Yes.
good, very good, very good.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we can win, eh? And form a coalition.
Please make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Yeah.
And we had a final thought yesterday.
Yes.
That we had recorded, and we instead chose to give a commentary on xenophobia and what's going on in South Africa.
Right.
So, but today we return to Revolution Speak, and we hope you enjoy the Russian Revolution. So, what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. And we shall advance from the book that we reviewed yesterday. And the book is entitled Revolution, Rebellion, Resistance, The Power of Story by a man called Eric Salpin. And today we shall be dealing with the Russian Revolution. Junior, you want to give us a summary?
Sure. So today we're going to focus on the Russian Revolution of 1917, which is different to another revolution that took place in Russia in 1905. And we'll come back to that momentarily.
Yes.
So the Russian Revolution of 1917 was one of the most explosive political events of the 20th century.
Yes.
And in this book, in fact, he refers to it as one of the most historical revolutions that has ever happened.
Yes.
So this very violent revolution marked the end of the Romanov dynasty. And they had ruled Russia for about 303 years.
Absolutely.
So just like yesterday, we'll go through some of the causes. And the three that we're going to pinpoint are poverty, war, and leadership.
Yes.
So in reference to poverty, peasants lived in absolute and terrible poverty.
Yes, absolutely.
75% of the population lived and farmed in rural spaces. And European industrialization had not fully arrived in Russia yet. So the country was very backward in their environmental and their agricultural systems.
Yes.
And when it did eventually boom, it resulted in urban migration and vast overcrowding. So you have a lot of people moving to St. Petersburg, to Moscow, and these cities are not able to withhold all these people.
Yeah.
Then when we look at leadership and war, there were years of oppression by the Tsarist regime.
Yeah.
And this did not make them very popular amongst the lower classes.
Yes.
So if we go back to 1905, you have the Russo-Japan War between Russia and Japan.
Yeah.
And so this made the country very unpopular because they spent a lot of money and they
Yes.
also lost the war.
Yes.
You add this on to high food prices. I think you were
Absolutely.
telling how in history class you learned about how
Yes.
the people went storming.
Yes. they went storming because, look, a situation, you're in war, you're at war, you're spending a lot of your money purchasing and manufacturing guns and tanks, but at the same time, the people that are meant to be the masses and to be running the economy
Are struggling.
are even being treated as slaves.
Exactly. So you have this 1905 as a prerequisite. So you have the Bloody Sunday event that happens where the army open a gunfire on a bunch of people and they kill them. So there's this resentment towards the regime.
Absolutely.
But now we come back to 1917 and you have World War I is going on at this point. And so Tsar Nicholas II decides that he wants to be an army leader.
And
he
they
says,
already think he's inept.
He's
He's
completely
inept.
incompetent, this man, because unfortunately his father died at the age of 45, so he was not prepared to take the seat at the age he did. So he decides, I'm going to go to the front lines and I'm going to lead the Russian army in World War I.
Yes.
And the people are like, no, you're not ready.
They didn't believe in the
They
war
didn't,
either.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So eventually he goes and they lose this war. And unfortunately, there are 2 million Russians who died during World War I. And they're sent into the battlefields unprepared. They don't have shoes, they don't have weapons, they don't have enough food. And so, moreover, the Tsar and the regime are very out of touch with the people and the needs that they have. So those are some of the causes that were leading up to the revolution. So while Nicholas is at the front lines, he leaves his very unpopular wife, Tsarina Alexandra, in charge. And she begins making these radical changes. And she's firing elected officials and she's being advised by her controversial advisor, Rasputin, who we all know, right?
And let's not forget the Tsarina is actually German.
Yes.
So there's also a mistrust given that you're at the World War.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's German, she's married to a Russian, so they actually believe that she was a spy selling information to the Germans at the time. So the Russian nobles are very worried and they murder Rasputin in December of 1916. By then, most Russians have lost faith in the government. And so these are like the hallmarks to the beginning of the revolution. So by February, you have what they call the first Russian Revolution of 1917. Demonstrators take to the street, and it was actually women.
Yes.
Much like we mentioned yesterday.
Yes. Price of bread is high, and they decide to storm St. Petersburg.
Exactly. So this was actually a spontaneous response to the economic and political situation. And so the army turns against the Tsar, and they force him to give up the throne. And eventually you have the government being run by two parties. On one hand, you have the Petrograd Soviet. These represent the workers and the soldiers.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, you have the provincial government. And this is the traditional government that used to exist under the Tsar.
Absolutely.
So for the next few months, you have these two groups ruling and governing the country. But then eventually you have this faction within the Petrograd Soviet called the Bolsheviks. And these people are led by Vladimir Lenin. And so he says that the government should be run using Marxist and communist ideals.
Absolutely.
And communism, quick definition, is that property should be owned by all, and that each person should contribute and then therefore receive a contribution back for the work that they did.
Absolutely.
And so by October 1917, you have the second revolution, which is known as the Bolshevik Revolution, where the Bolsheviks lead a coup d'etat against the provincial government, and we have Lenin now in power.
You know, I sat back and I asked myself, from 1905 to 1917, it's 12 years, all right? Now, you have Bloody Sunday. Let's assume there was a mother born then. I mean, there was a mother who was giving birth to a child then. It's about 12 years. And then they see women and other people shot, being killed. And then 1914, Russia, decides to go to war with the Germans. And then they send over 2 million people there without food, with no training, with no arms. And they are slaughtered, right? And 5 million of them come back wounded. And now the same mothers see their children have been killed in far-off lands, and it's because of the ineptness of the Tsar. Now, my point is this. There must have been a reason why the masses did not rebel much earlier. If there's a span of 12 years, it means there's something that happened that broke the camel's back. Now, that happens, 2 million people are killed. But then when workers decide to go and protest, and the Tsar sends his army, and the army decides to turn back and points the gun towards the king or towards the Tsar, that is the point where everybody says to Meshiba. And you see, that is exactly what happened in Egypt. When, what's his name, Mubarak, who tried to quell riots, when al-Bashir tried to quell riots, and the army turned their guns, that's when you know it is over for you.
And you're right, because these revolutions that we've been looking at seem to have some threads, some commonalities, right?
Absolutely.
So I have a few points I've put together. What a successful revolution looks like, right? What they need. So we assume that revolutions happen on a continuum. There's the origination of a struggle. So in this case, there was a high price of bread. There was a war that they don't want to fight in. They lost a lot of lives. In the French one as well. And so we see that the first thing a revolution needs is a creation of that situation. These conditions that are making people feel that there needs to be a change. So we're seeing constantly that women are also at the forefront of it. So we had the march to Versailles with the French, and then here we're having women storming St. Petersburg, and those cultivating those moments, right? And the second thing is that a revolution needs people. People as a conscious group capable of intentional actions, and they're bound together by this deep passion and commitment. For Lenin, it was, you know what, we need to nationalize, or at least make the means of production open for everybody, right? And there needs to be equality. And so the next thing they say is that, or Lenin actually pointed out, was the revolutions are festivals of the oppressed and exploited. So these bands of people grouped together, and you know, they're trying to make a change. The third thing is the importance of a good story. And this book really points that out, that there has to be a narrative. In the French Revolution, we saw them talking about liberty, equality, and fraternity. And for the Bolsheviks, it was peace, land, and bread. Very simple.
And on the point that Kevin was making, asking the question, what broke the camel's back? And he talks about this in the book, 3 kinds of revolutions. And I would think that with the 1905 and the 1917, we can make 2 distinctions. In the 1905 Russian Revolution, he talks about it being a civilizing and democratizing story, where it's used by the elites to quell the people, to lull them, and to make them believe that a more liberal day is coming. And that's why that revolution never saw the light of day. It happened, they killed it, it was over.
And they killed it with the State Duma. So it was the idea that people are making some decisions, but it wasn't actually.
And so the story never really happened. Whereas with the 1917, you have this very deep and passionate story that's able to mobilize 75% of the country to to the point where the revolution does see the light of day.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So Salpin tells us that a good story allows people to imagine a transformed world.
Yes.
And that's why those phrases catch on and are able to give life to these movements.
Yes.
And then the next thing is that revolutions are often led from above.
Yes.
Right? So in the French, we saw how the king and the clergy underestimated the third estate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in
Absolutely.
and in the Russian case, we
Yes.
see Lenin, who is well educated, well traveled,
Absolutely.
is even interacting with the Paris Commune, really trying
Yes.
to,
Yes.
he wasn't a commoner.
Yeah.
But that for a successful revolution, you need someone at the top.
Yes.
You need someone to lead it forward.
Absolutely.
And I think we were having a conversation about how Hong Kong revolution, the protests seem rudderless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can't see an obvious
A
There's
person
no
behind
leader.
it.
Yeah, there's no
Yes.
person
Right?
pushing
Yeah.
it.
Then the next thing you need is an object of aggression.
Yeah.
So in the French, we saw that the clergy and the nobility were the obvious objects of aggression.
Yes.
In this case, we saw the Tsarina,
Yes.
the Tsar,
Absolutely.
we're seeing
Rasputin.
Rasputin. Easy kind of things that you can see and say,
Yes. These are
something
the,
doesn't add up.
the hallmarks
Yeah.
of
Right?
power. Yeah.
And then we see that timing is everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lenin had perfect timing
He
at
did.
the end of the Russian Civil War in
Yeah.
order to take hold. He said, I'm not going to wait
Yeah.
for the majority of
longer.
Bolsheviks to put me in power.
Yes.
I'm going to do it
History,
myself.
history
Yeah.
will not wait and will not forgive us for not
Yeah,
taking,
that's very true.
taking hold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, I'm seeing a pattern,
Yeah.
and every time, you know, with the Russian Revolution, it happened when Russia was at war and they were using public money. Where in the French Revolution, the French was, I think, compensating the Americans for the American Revolution, still using public money. But another trend I'm seeing right now is what they call the reign of terror in the French Revolution. And we said yesterday that every revolution needs a scar.
Yeah.
There has to be a reign of terror. Now, for the Russians, in my view, they had two reigns of terror. One in Russia, which is Bloody Sunday, and second, when their people were massacred in the war against Russia. Now, where am I going with this? I think there's another reign of terror happening in our continent, and that is South Africa. Look, they have their reds and they have their whites. And the reds, in my view, is economic freedom fighters led by Julius Malema. And they have been asking that the land that belongs to white people be given back to Africans. Now, the ruling party, and I think it uses white capital to sustain itself, is using a narrative, and that narrative is your fellow Africans. You people are suffering because your fellow Africans are the ones that are taking opportunities from you.
Yeah, and I think that points to the object of aggression.
Yes.
They found a way to change that narrative. So instead of the white person being the object of aggression, they have found
It
their
has
fellow
shifted to
African
their fellow
to be.
African.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the object of aggression and the tools to get to that object of aggression is xenophobia. And that is how you rally the masses, and that is how you maintain power and still keep land and capital in the rights of and land in the hands of oppressors.
And there you have our final thought. And I just want to leave you with this. The importance of narrative and not just material conditions. Because even in South Africa and what you're seeing with xenophobia, it's a story that is being told. And the human desire for stories are stories that define us. And they create and manage and understand it manages the world as we see it. And so it is these stories that will define us. And so we have to make sure that we're telling the right story.
Absolutely.
And we're looking at the right thing. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel right here. Right here. And we're also on TV, Go TV, Pang, Free to Air. Have a good evening.